Donald Trump has so clearly won. And everyone at Davos knows it. So he went out there and he did this giant FU, right, to Davos by video. But before he did, they had this little seminar and they were talking on stage about all that had happened. And this is just priceless. This is great. I want you to hear it. They're like, we lost. He won. Mm-hmm.
Trump has done something no person in the world has ever done before. A dead man, a dead politician, has risen. Somebody who, if we were 4 years ago at Davos, he's buried, dead politically, known to me. He's now returned. This is the greatest comeback in political history of a politician. And then, therefore, he thinks he can do anything.
We need to also factor in not only who's won, which is Trump, but who's lost, which is to say us. And I guess I would throw into that the epitome of the us who is losing here is Europe. That the European Union and by and large its member states have misread the direction where events were going. The causes that it is interested in, climate, human rights, some others, as well as the methods of diplomacy that it prefers, are simply being gradually kind of marginalized as something new, not necessarily something better, but something new moves into the center.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so they know it. They know they're done. They know Trump has won. He knows it too, and he went and did this video conference with them. It was fabulous.
America is back and open for business, and this week I'm also taking swift action to stop the invasion at our southern border. They allowed people to come in at levels that nobody's ever seen before. It was ridiculous. I decided and declared to do, and very, very importantly, a national emergency on our border, immediately halted all entry of illegal border crossers, of which there were many, and began promptly returning the illegal trespassers back to the place from which they came. That action, as you've probably seen, has already started very strongly. I've deployed active duty U.S. military and National Guard troops to the border to assist in repelling the invasion. It was really an invasion.
An invasion. What do you know? Well, he's making lots of changes. And he wants everybody else to start making changes too. There was this great moment when the Bank of America CEO got called out on this global stage because there were a lot of reports from conservatives that they were getting their accounts canceled at Bank of America. There were also reports, don't forget, that the federal government had asked various banks to go in and look at certain people's profiles to see if they had shopped at Dick's Sporting Goods. It's like, careful, don't shop at Dick's Sporting Goods or you're going to be somehow on the radar of the Biden administration. Well, Trump, he knows this, and he called Brian Moynihan, the CEO of Bank of America, out right to his face. Watch.
By the way, speaking of you, and you've done a fantastic job, but I hope you start opening your bank to conservatives, because many conservatives complain that the banks are not allowing them to do business within the bank, and that included a place called Bank of America. They don't take conservative business, and I don't know if the regulators mandated that because of Biden or what, but you and Jamie and everybody, I hope you're going to open your banks to conservatives, because what you're doing is wrong.
What you're doing is wrong.
Mr. President, I'll say that your friend Gianni said hello, told me to tell you hello, and we look forward to sponsoring the World Cup when it comes, both this summer for the club and next year. So thank you for getting that for the United States.
What was that? I don't think Brian knew what to say. Jonathan Mason, thank you. Shout out to Jonathan Mason. Thank you for your support. We always appreciate that. I try to see those in real time as they go by. So thank you for your support, Jonathan. Look, Brian, I think he just didn't know what to say other than, hey, we're going to get together on some sponsorship thing together. I mean, that was bizarre. But Trump is right. You know, this is something that you've heard echoed in the conservative community. There's been a lot of concern about it. I know my friend Dinesh D'Souza ran into some banking challenges. I'm not sure if Bank of America might have been his bank, but I don't want to misquote him. But he has run into some things, and it's something that I've heard from a lot of conservatives, that they just make things really, really difficult. And so that has to change. Like, you cannot cut off half the country. You just can't, okay? You can't do that. You know, I think Jamie Dimon recognized this a while back. In fact, just last year at Davos, he made a really good point about that. You can't just shun 70 some odd million people.
I wish the Democrats would think a little more carefully when they talk about MAGA, you know, and if you travel this country, you know, and the country's unbelievable. We took our bus trip this year, and Leslie Picker was on Spokane and Boise and Bozeman. People are growing. They're hungry to grow. They're innovating. It's everywhere. It's not just Silicon Valley. So we've got this great hand. But when people say MAGA, they're actually looking at people voting for Trump, and they think they're voting, and they're basically scapegoating them, that you are like him. But I don't think they're voting for Trump because of his family values. Now, if you look, just take a step back, be honest. He was kind of right about NATO, kind of right about immigration. Mm-hmm. He grew the economy quite well.
China virus.
Tax reform worked. Mm-hmm. He was right about some of China. I don't like what he did.
No, I said China virus.
Yeah, I understand. He may have been right. And I don't like how he said things about Mexico. I don't like, but he wasn't wrong about some of these critical issues, and that's why they're voting for him. And I think people should be a little more respectful of our fellow citizens. And when you guys have people up here, you should always ask the why. Not like it's a binary thing. You're supporting Trump, you're not supporting Trump. Why are you supporting Trump?
It's hard to hate 75 million of your fellow Americans.
I agree.
It's done crazy.
And, you know, the Democrats have done a pretty good job with the deplorables, hugging onto their Bibles and their beer and their guns. I mean, really, like, could we just stop that stuff and actually grow up and treat other people with respect and listen to them a little bit? And I do think the economy will affect, and I think this negative talk about MAGA is going to hurt Biden's election campaign.
And it did. It certainly did. You know, you got to actually run on something. You can't just run on, hating the other side. I want to go back to the full exchange here. The Bank of America CEO, who suddenly is playing reporter. He's got an opportunity to ask Donald Trump questions there on that grand stage. You heard the punchline. Trump goes right after him. But nonetheless, there were some interesting things that were shared. Let's go to that now.
Well, now I'll go to another CEO that you know very well, Brian Moynihan, the CEO and chair of Bank of America.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, and congratulations, and obviously eventful week for you and your family. If you remember 5 years ago, you came here and we walked among 150 CEOs from all over the world, and you engaged with them about your policies and your procedures. This year you're not here, and yet this week was eventful from the orders that you mentioned earlier, literally a wave of orders coming out on immigration, on trade, and many other matters. And so, as a representative of the United States here, we got a lot of questions about what does all this mean and how would the president square this with his clear focus on growth, prosperity, market growth, stock market growth, a good bond market, and bringing down prices. So how do you think about the impact of all these orders and how fast they come out, and how you're going to balance them with that scorecard of being successful in both continuing GDP growth, bringing down inflation, and also having a good stock price?
Down to 21%, the corporate tax. And it was actually, if you look at state and city, it was in many cases much higher than 40%. I got it down to 21%. And now we're going to bring it down from 21 to 15% if, there's a big if you make your product in the U.S. So we're going to have the lowest, just about the lowest rate. It'll be, the 21 is on the low side worldwide. The 15 is about as low as it gets. And by far the lowest of a large country, a large, rich, powerful country by far, not even a contest. So we're going to bring it down to 15% if you make your product in the USA. So that's going to create a tremendous buzz. We're also probably going back to the 1 year deduction where we deduct, we did that originally, and that was amazing what the impact that had, the 1 year deduction, which built up over a period of time, and then it expires. But we're going to go back to that when we do the renewal of the Trump tax plan. We have to get Democrats to approve it. But, if the Democrats didn't approve it, I don't know how they can survive with about a 45% tax increase, because that's what it would be. And so I think they're going to do. We've been working along with them pretty well. I think it's very hard for a political group to say, let's charge people 45% more. So I think we're in good shape, but we're actually doing a reduction for business and small businesses where you're going to bring it down to 15%, which is really something. And by the way, speaking of you, and you've done a fantastic job, but I hope you start opening your bank to conservatives, because many conservatives complain that the banks are not allowing them to do business within the bank, and that included a place called Bank of America. They don't take conservative business. And I don't know if the regulators mandated that because of Biden or what, but you and Jamie and everybody, I hope you're going to open your banks to conservatives, because what you're doing is wrong.
Mr. President, I'll say that your friend Gianni said hello, told me to tell you hello, and we look forward to sponsoring the World Cup when it comes, both this summer for the club and next year. So thank you for getting that for the United States.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Again, just so weird. I just want to say, Sun Tzu Me, thank you so much. We got a few of those super chats today, so thank you so much. I do appreciate your generosity. I guess that's your third super on a live stream, so thank you so much. Quick reminder, guys, you know what? 76research.com, my company, my financial research company. I started with my dear friend Rob. Rob is brilliant. He's been 20 some odd years on Wall Street as a stock picker, running mutual funds. You can see, actually, these numbers are even better. I got to get the new numbers out because we're coming out at the end of January, so we'll be able to publish some new numbers, and they're just really stellar. Listen, good stuff ahead. And it's not being controlled by the WEF, it's being controlled by pure markets, and that's a big difference. So go to 76research.com, sign up for the 76 report code word dollar, look at those model portfolios. I want you to do that too.